This program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program is not a solicitation or recommendation for any investment or security. Investments or securities mentioned in this show may or may not be owned by NEPSIS Advisor Services. NEPSIS Advisor Services is an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Welcome to Journeys with Joni. My name is Joni Rametta, and I'm here today with my co-host Mark Clark. Join us as we travel on the road to clarity. I'm excited about our program today, Mark. We have a return guest.
Yeah, this is awesome. He was with us in the office a couple weeks ago, and I'm really excited about this. Is a passionate topic, in my opinion.
It's been very passionate. I think with a lot of our conversations, and also with some of the professionals that we've been speaking to, and also with our clients. So welcome today, Bob Collins from the National Christian Foundation. Thanks for returning back to Sarasota.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here.
I know we had you in the office a couple weeks ago, and this topic of generosity is something in my travels. It keeps coming up over and over and over again with advisors, with clients, with professionals. And I know that the topic of today's show is applied generosity. And you were in our office a couple weeks ago, but I'm amazed at how much this topic is beginning to come up. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's been a topic that's been around a long time. But as you begin, and I think this is a very interesting point, as you begin to discover the topic with a purpose, it seems to surface, a lot more than you assumed it has. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, that's true. The last time I was on your show, we talked about generosity and just the reasons behind it. The spiritual dimension of it. And what we talked about a couple of weeks ago in your office was with professional advisors, attorneys, accountants, financial planners, and starting to move into how to work with their clients and other people that they work with and help them in their generosity.
Yeah, and when you do it with purpose, it has a whole different mindset. It's not just like there's a commercial on television and something's pulling at my heartstring, and I'm going to write a check, or I'm at church and I drop some money in the offering plate. It does have a different spin to it when you do it with a purpose.
Yeah, that's true. And in fact, more and more people want their professional advisor, their financial planner, to work with them in their giving. Mm-hmm. That's been a big sea change over the last 15 or 20 years, to where now the majority of folks want to engage with their financial planner in their giving.
Well, our listeners, we just jumped into the topic, and I love this, and I know we're all passionate here, but Joni, somebody who's listening to the show today, how would they get a hold of us? How would they find us? We could throw out our contact information right here. I think this would be a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Journeys with Joni, JONI.com is the website where you can see previous shows or listen to previous shows. You can be connected to the National Christian Foundation. They're also available at www.nationalchristian.com. You can give us a call in the office at 941-361-1484.
Thanks, Joni. This would be something I think that as you listen to the show today, if you find yourself inquisitive about the topic and you just want more information, call us and we can connect
Absolutely.
you. So before we get into the topic of the applied generosity, you were in our office a couple weeks ago and we did a workshop for professionals. But tell us a little bit, remind the listeners who National Christian Foundation is. I think that would be a good place to start.
Well, National Christian Foundation is a Christian community foundation, nationwide in scope, but we have an office here in the Tampa Bay area. And so we help local families and business owners in their giving. It's important to note that NCF is not the charity that asks you for money and you give money to, but we actually serve you as your personal foundation. And so we help you in giving to other charities, not to us.
One of the things that is ringing in my mind from our previous conversations is there are several organizations, and they're all good, that you can utilize that are similar to National Christian Foundation. But one of the unique things that you guys have is the ability, if somebody puts money in an account at National Christian Foundation, they still have the ability to, and I believe it was, maintain family ownership of the trustee or the director of who the money is, versus other organizations which don't allow that. after somebody passes away. Am I right in that?
Well, that's true. Again, our spirit is to serve these families and help them in their giving. And if part of their objective is to have a family foundation fund that is run by the family, run by a committee, and pass that off to future generations, we certainly accommodate that.
So we talked about this in the last show, and it was a great topic. The last time you were here, not the last show, my bad. That teaching your kids, teaching the next generations to not only to be, but how to be involved in the giving process, and that's really what we're referring to here is to create a generous generation, but giving them enabling them, empowering them to do that.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing we found, which to me has been surprising, is that having a fund at the foundation and using that to manage your giving makes it a lot easier to involve your family and to involve your children and the rest of your family in your giving. And it's ultimately a powerful discipleship tool.
I can see that. And I know, Joni, you've had several people that we've talked to over the last couple of weeks about giving, but I think it's a great resource, and with intent, putting it in your planning, it can be a powerful tool.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people are now I don't know if it's one of those things where, once you buy a red car, all you see on the highway are red cars. But, once you start looking at things like this, you start to see all these opportunities. So, personally, I have my account with the National Christian Foundation, and it's interesting because something will come up and I'll be like, well, I don't know if this month I can, where am I going to get the funds from?
Right.
And then the bell goes off and goes, you have some money sitting in an account over there. Now's the time to do it. So it enables me to plan my giving and then take advantage of opportunities that just pop up out of nowhere that I can be like, well, I've got some money set aside.
It's neat because you have the opportunity to, not necessarily manage your giving in a tax, emergency situation at the end of the year. I know we're up against a break. The topic of today's show is applied generosity. And Bob, you were in the office a couple weeks ago. You gave a presentation. We're going to get into some of the nuggets that were in that presentation. We'd like to share those with people that are listening to the show after we come back from this next break. So, Joni, you want to take us out, and then when we come back, we will talk to Bob more about the nuts and bolts of applied generosity.
Right. Okay. You can go to journeyswithjoni, JONI.com, listen to some previous shows. Investing with Clarity also is one of our little videos online that you can watch. We've had a lot of people, I think, interested in learning how to invest with us and actually attending our workshops. We'll have some of those coming up as well. And you can give us a call at 941-361-1484. Our offices are actually located at University Parkway and I-75 in the Home Bank Building, 6230 University Parkway. So give us a call if you'd like to get some more information. Journeys with Joni. We'll be right back.
Do you know what you own and why you own it? Join us for our next workshop to learn about investing with clarity by calling 941-361-1484 to reserve your seat today. Joni and Mark look forward to discussing the philosophy, strategy, flexibility, and transparency, the 4 pillars of investing, with NEPSIS Advisor Services. Call today, 941-361-1484. That's 941-361-1484.
Welcome back to Journeys with Joni. I'm Joni Rometta, and just before the break, Mark and I were discussing with Bob from the National Christian Foundation about applied generosity and being specific in our giving. We have the website for Christian Foundation at nationalchristian.com. Bob Collins is the president of the Tampa Bay National Christian Foundation. And he was here a couple weeks ago speaking with some professionals with us, some attorneys and CPAs, educating them about the National Christian Foundation, about generous giving, about clients now who are listeners who are now wanting to talk and purposefully plan their giving. And it's a newer type kind of thing, because I mean, in the past, I don't think everybody's really thought about making that part of their plan, but now people are doing it. And a lot of our clients are doing it, Mark. We're purposely saying, where do you want to give? What do you want to give? How are we going to give? Do you want your family to continue to give once you're gone? And sort of, starting to put some of those things together.
Giving has always or historically been that afterthought. That what do I, it's the last thing. I was in a conversation with a CPA the other day, and we were talking about closely held businesses and the opportunity to use a charitable tool or charitable opportunity to have an impact in their plan. And when we walked through the specifics of the conversation that we were having about one specific client, the CPA actually said, I never thought about having a charitable tool to really impact the entire plan of a succession plan of a closely held business. So, Bob, where do people start? And I think this is one of the passions that not only you personally, having known you for several years, but the National Christian Foundation in Tampa Bay has. Where does one start, and what's the purpose of you, being so passionate about this space in the financial services area?
Well, yeah, I mean, when we talked with those advisors a couple of weeks ago, I think what we find is that they want to engage with their clients in this area, but they're not comfortable yet because they don't have a proper framework. So what we presented was a comprehensive framework for how to walk with their clients and progress towards greater and greater sophistication in the management of their giving. And it also doubles as a diagnostic tool, so they can look at a client that they have and look at this framework and say, okay, where are they along this spectrum? And it immediately will tell them, okay, here's what I need to engage them in and the next steps beyond that. And so, for instance, one of the first steps in this process is to use a donor-advised fund, or what we call a giving fund. And that's something that we were talking about a few minutes ago. But it really enables a lot more management of your giving once you take that first step. The big idea behind using a donor-advised fund is that it can allow you to make decisions separately in the funding of your giving from your own cash flow and your own tax situation versus the ultimate gifts to charity. Because how a fund works is when you make a contribution into your fund, you get an immediate tax deduction. The money can then be invested and can grow tax-free within that fund, but you're still calling the shots and giving out grants to your favorite charities. So the money hasn't gone yet to the ultimate charity. And I'll give you an example of how people use this is, for instance, right at the end of the year, it could be December 27th, you can make a contribution into your fund and get your tax deduction in this year. But then you can take the rest of the next year to ultimately give the money away to the charities that you love, but enables you to accelerate the charitable deduction by doing that.
So let me make sure I got this right. I'm slow sometimes, I forget things. There's an internal joke in this, but so December 27th, I have met with my tax professional, and they say, here's the calculation. This is an intelligent number that you need to give away. Now go find some place to give it. Well, I no longer have to run around town going, oh my Lord, who do you want me to give this money to? Well, I put it in my donor advised fund. And let's just say I'm passionate toward youth. And my goal is at church is to find youthful mission trips throughout the year. I can use that money that I put in December 27th, previous year, and I can sprinkle that money or spigot, turn it on, use 10, 20, 30% of it at the first mission trip at church, because it's a 501c3. I can give to that, and I can sprinkle that money as those opportunities come up throughout the year that I want to be passionate and fun. That allows me to do that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have that same experience, whether it's just right up against the end of the year, or they get a bonus from work or some other windfall, and they want to tithe off of it, and they feel like they have to run around almost in a panic mode, trying to figure out how to give the money away. Instead, they can just move it into the fund, so they can say, okay, I've taken care of that charitable desire that I have, but now I can take my time and give the money away wisely.
I think that's important, because I think a lot of the times when we're trying to do something, there's the I have to hurry up and make the donation for tax purposes, and then I also have to go find where to go give it. And that's a lot of pressure. And sometimes you're not, maybe the amount is too big. You don't want to give it to all one place, or the one place you've given it to, you've already given some to this year and you don't want to give them more, but you don't know where else to go. And you need to spend some time researching it sometimes. And I think sometimes, we're better off if we make decisions over a period of time as opposed to, making them, under the gun, so to speak, at the end of the year.
I would agree with that. The show today, Applied Generosity. As I'm looking at our notes, it's giving beyond the check. And one of the conversations, in reference to the conversation I had with the CPA was not empowered. Typically, the advisor's not empowered. And I'm not saying I'm any better, but I've just been privileged to interact with National Christian Foundation, and so they've caused my thinking to change. Mm-hmm. I know we're kind of up against a break, and we're going to go to commercial here in a minute. But, Bob, when we come back, I'm sure you have some nuggets that we can talk about giving beyond the check and the resources that you guys bring to the table to help that mindset become a reality.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I like to say is that cash is really the worst way to fund your giving. Not that there's anything wrong with giving cash to charity, but it's the least tax efficient. And so there's ways to give beyond writing checks that is going to enable you to have more bang for the buck.
Now people are looking at their radio sideways. But you're going to elaborate on that when we come back. Joni, take us to break.
Yeah, I'm sitting there going, I can't write a check? That's great. I'd like to hear a little bit more of that too. So Journeys with Joni, JONI.com is the website you can go to get more information. Nationalchristian.com is for the foundation if you're interested in a donor advised fund. We are located at 6230 University Parkway, and you can reach us by calling 941-361-1484. Journeys with Joni. We'll be right back.
Do you know what you own and why you own it? Join us for our next workshop to learn about investing with clarity by calling 941-361-1484 to reserve your seat today. Joni and Mark look forward to discussing the philosophy, strategy, flexibility, and transparency, the 4 pillars of investing, with NEPSIS Advisor Services. Call today, 941-361-1484. That's 941-361-1484.
Welcome back to Journeys with Joni. I'm Joni Rametta, and just before the break, Mark and I were talking with Bob Collins from the National Christian Foundation about giving, generous giving, purposeful giving. And one of the comments he made was that, sometimes giving cash is not the most, the smartest thing to do. And you don't get the biggest tax deductions for it. So let's have some more conversation with Bob about different kinds of giving that you can do, because a lot of people think that, you have to pull out the checkbook and you have to write the check and give the cash either from, a savings account or from your income as you're going along. And that's not necessarily true. So Bob, let's talk about a couple of other things that we can be giving, like stocks, mutual funds, low cost basis information.
Yeah, that's correct. I made the comment that cash is the worst way to fund your giving. And from, purely tax perspective, that is true. And an easy win can be to gift appreciated stock or mutual fund shares. And the concept is that if you give stock, let's say it's $10,000 worth of stock, you're going to get the same tax deduction as if you gave cash, $10,000. So $10,000 cash, $10,000 in stock, same tax deduction. But the idea is that by gifting the stock, whatever capital gain tax liability that's associated with that stock disappears. So instead of selling the stock, paying the taxes, and then giving cash, you can just give the stock directly. And that capital gain tax liability just goes away. So it's really a double benefit for your giving. And using the donor advised fund, or what we call the giving fund, makes it very simple and easy, because you just transfer the stock into your fund, and there it's sold tax-free, and then you can give it away to all of your favorite charities. And so instead of giving, I need to give a little bit of stock here and a little bit of stock to my church and a little bit of stock to this charity, you can just make one stock transfer into one account and then give it to a dozen different charities from there. Just makes it simple, easy, convenient.
And you can also use stock of a closely held business as well, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, that same concept applies to virtually anything of value. It could be closely held business, real estate, artwork, insurance policies, really anything of value. It's worth looking at these other sources to fund your giving, instead of just, as Joni said, looking at your income and your cash flow and writing checks.
So it makes sense to, if that's something that is of interest to you, it would make sense to sit down and do some planning, do some analysis. And National Christian Foundation provides a lot of resources for us as planners and other professional CPAs and attorneys to take that to another level. But you had another topic you kind of wanted to step into, Bob, that we kind of talked about at our workshop a couple weeks ago. And that's, if I've got it right, it's if you have a charitable intent when you leave this life or this world at death, there's some other options for you can think about now, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are planning on giving charitably at death. You know, they've got something written into their will where they may be leaving money to their church or other favorite charities. And the idea is, well, that's certainly great, and we encourage that. But the idea is that it's doing nothing for you in terms of a current income tax benefit. So sure, you're going to give away, let's say, $100,000 when you die. But what about today in your income tax bill that's hitting you every year? And so there are ways to get a current income tax deduction for money that you're not going to give away until you die anyway. And one of those is a charitable gift annuity. So a charitable gift annuity is a contract between you and the charity. In this case, it would be the National Christian Foundation, where you give money, let's say $100,000, and in return, you get an income stream for the rest of your life. So in essence, you still have the use and benefit of the money, because if you had it in savings and in CDs and it was earning interest, now it's essentially the same. You know, it's still earning a return. And in fact, it could be a higher return. But at the same time, when you did that, you got an income tax deduction for that future gift. So not only are you getting the same or more income than you were getting in CDs, but you've also gotten a nice charitable deduction for doing it. And of course, you know, in the future, when you do pass, the charity gets the benefit of the donation, just as you originally planned.
That's a very powerful tool, especially as you think about current income taxes and a current benefit while you are still alive. And you're absolutely correct. Giving money away at death does have an impact on the estate tax. But, you know, what about the money you're shelling out to Uncle Sam on an annual basis? Everybody would like to eliminate some of that.
Yeah, again, you were planning on giving the money away when you died anyway. So why not get some current income tax benefits for that?
And what other things do you, along this topic, what other, or maybe you can give us even an example of somebody that has had these type of experiences or walked down this road, and what impact they've felt? What's the emotional experience that they've had when they've done something like this?
Well, you know, as I like to say, I've never met an unhappy, generous person. I mean, there's just tremendous benefits to being generous. In fact, studies have shown that generous people are healthier and live longer. Not that that would be your motivation necessarily for being generous, but I think it just shows that by investing in other people and making conscious decisions to help others instead of pursuing the American dream, then you are happier and you do have a greater sense of fulfillment. And of course, as a Christian, you know, our perspective is that, you know, God has modeled radical generosity for us, and you know, that is our model, and we should pursue that as well. And there are great promises from God to reward us for generosity, maybe in this life, certainly in eternity.
Well, if you read the scripture and believe it, as we do, he owns it all anyway, and he has entrusted us to be stewards of what he has entrusted us with. And the question is, what are we going to do with it? And the only two things that are going to really pass through this life are his word and the souls of people. So how can you use what he's entrusted you with to impact others? What a great way to do it, by being generous. Now, I know we're out of time. I know we're really close here, but you know, Bob, it's awesome to have you with us. We've just scratched the surface. We just, you know, embrace the beginning of the topic, and I would encourage people that listen to the show or have listened to us in the past, you know, connect with us. Give us an opportunity to sit down and introduce you to Bob and the resources we've got. So it's awesome to have you here today. Yeah,
thanks. I think the main message here is that if you give and you want to give more to your favorite charities by giving more tax efficiently, it really pays to sit down with an advisor who knows this topic, and then they can walk you through and they can analyze your situation and show you the best way to fund the giving that you're already doing to your favorite charities.
And there's no cost to sit down with us, right, Joni?
No, we're free.
We are.
Just don't kick the tires, as you like to say.
Yeah, come in and sit down with us. We'll have a conversation. Joni, take us out of here. Bob, thanks for being here.
Thank you for sharing your time with us today. If you want to have a conversation on making a decision to be charitable today, give Mark and I a call at 941-361-1484 or visit us at journeyswithjoni.com. Journeys with Joni will be back next week. Until then, thanks for listening.
This program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program is not a solicitation or recommendation for any investment or security. Investments or securities mentioned in this show may or may not be owned by NEPSIS Advisor Services. NEPSIS Advisor Services is an SEC registered investment advisor.